Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hammer Week is continuing. It's day 3 of Hammer Week as we march towards this trial that's about to go on with Michigan and the NCAA. It's about to be amazing. So we have the top insider joining us today. So we're going to break all of that down. As always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little bell. Happy birthday to Buckeye Scoop. 5 years strong in business. This is the strongest we've ever been. Best iteration. Message board is on fire. Full camp coverage coming tomorrow for the first Ohio State camp. 5-year anniversary. Time flies, but wow, what an incredible run it's been. The site is absolutely incredible. Thank you to all of you that subscribe to BuckeyeScoop.com. But it's a very fun day to celebrate our birthday at BuckeyeScoop.com, and we are going to do that by talking about Michigan and the impending hammer that is coming. So again, if you guys want to support this channel, especially on our birthday, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. It's like better than buying us a cake or even cupcakes for our birthday, and leave us a 5-star review. Appreciate you guys doing that. Again, it's an easy way to help spread the good word of the channel. Our YouTube is surging. Apple Podcasts is surging. So thank you to all of you guys for helping us out. With that being said, we have not only the most handsome insider in the history of the Michigan scandal, but the funniest, the king of the edits, the great Justin Spira is joining Nevadabuck and I tonight. Justin, welcome back. Again, I appreciate you and your time as always. How excited are you for this week as we march into Friday's proceedings?
Well, first of all, happy birthday to you. I didn't realize it was your Buckeye Scoop birthday today. That's a milestone at year 5. So congrats on that. And before we get into that, even the whole Michigan thing, you and I were called out, I guess the collective, us, everyone in this room here, for being fake insiders today. And I had to run off the list of everything I've reported, and it's all true for about 2 years now. I know you guys have been somewhat in that similar path. I do find it amusing that they're already sort of preempting the undermining of both of us, frankly, where even when we're right, we're going to be wrong. So they're saying things that we haven't already said. And that brings me to your question. How am I excited for this June 6th, June 7th thing? There is a important point to note, and I don't know who runs your guys' like actual Twitter feed. I don't know if it's one of you two or if you have someone under you. Whoever's running that said something today or yesterday to this effect that keep in mind, there's not going to be some bombshell on June 6th or 7th or 8th. The meeting, the hearing is scheduled for those 2 days, June 6th and 7th. That's when they're meeting. That's not going to be the final adjudication of this. Even if we are to presume Michigan is not going to be protesting whatever the outcome is in some way, challenging, appealing it, suing, whatever. Let's just say they take it no matter what it is, good or bad. It's still not going to be anytime that soon. And this is what it's important to note. It's not Buckeye Scoop or Justin Spiro being wrong. In fact, I've said all along that it's going to take a while, and that's assuming there's no challenge, which I assume there will be from Michigan. So I am very excited in the sense that it's a nice occasion. It's a formal step in this process, arguably, I think, the biggest one so far. But there's not going to be any grand revelation, including privately to Michigan. Michigan's not going to really know where it's going either. They don't know now, and they're not going to know in a few days. So, yes, I'm excited. I think some stuff will come out and there'll be leaks about vibes and all that. But really, all you have to do is look at the past history of this type of meeting and the turnaround. And I pulled like a couple examples I've been doing in my own coverage and research, like Tennessee. They had their hearing on April 19th of 2023. The final decision, July of 2023. Pretty quick. That was about 3 months. Still a lot longer than people are expecting, though. They think there's going to be some decision on June 9th or something. It's not going to happen. That was 3 months. Baylor, before that, mid-December 2020. We didn't get their final decision until August 11th, 8 months later of the following year. So that's kind of the ballpark here, and it's a wide ballpark. You're looking at months, plural, probably. Doesn't mean it can't be less, but it's not going to be a day or two. It's just not. And I think it's worth noting both of those examples involved one, vacated wins, and two, exemplary compliance by the universities, by the NCAA's own admission in their decision. This is not that. This is the ultimate. Not only is it non-compliant, uncooperative, they've been obstructionists. So that does lend some questions about, does this get drawn out even more? In theory, just in general theory, any type of process of investigation with full cooperation is going to tend to move faster than one where there have been obstructions and there's lack of trust built, even if they suddenly decide to start cooperating as they should have all along. So long answer to your question. Yes, I'm excited. I think it's a milestone step, but it's really important to remember that, again, Baylor and Tennessee, if you want to average the two, is almost 6 months average between those two scandals. Both of those resulted in vacated wins. So if we're sitting here 2 months from now and there hasn't been any decision and these idiots are talking about, oh, where's the hammer? That's not even as long as the last two examples of programs getting vacated wins or having wins vacated. So I just think it's important to look at the context. But yes, I'm excited. I do not feel good for them. I don't know if you guys have changed the tide at all in the last week. It's just the people I talk to in the Michigan circles, obviously they don't know how this is going to end up either. They're worried. That's what I'm hearing. That they have grave concerns. So we'll see. I don't know where you guys are at, but that's where I'm at now.
Nevada, I'll let you go first on this. First part, you obviously respond to Justin. Have we changed our stance? And second part, are you shocked that people don't like us? They're like, the smooth brains are attacking us on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my god, please give me a little bit more of that, because again, they watch us longer than the people that actually like us do, so they're my favorites, man. Because keep on watching our YouTube videos, because you see our numbers, and people lie, numbers don't. Nevada, will you ever recover from the dumbest people on Twitter not liking myself, you, and even Justin by association?
Well, the like, dislike, whatever. But my favorite gambit of all is the apply a quote that you either didn't make or that's out of
Oh my
context,
god.
and then point out that it's wrong. I mean, that one is like, the greatest. We've always said this was going to follow an NCAA guideline. How long that takes, if it's 45 days hence, is it 90 days hence, is it 60 days? Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. But it's all put out on the dashboard. This is all followed a procedure that's followed on the incident. You can follow along very publicly on the NCAA infractions dashboard. So yeah, the idea that we're somehow wrong because this has taken some inordinate amount of time, or it's just deviated from some timeline that we've committed to, is just silliness. But uh, look, I expect the final decision. I think the decision will be quicker than what Justin says, but it could be that long. For me personally, and I've said this from the very beginning, I've been steadfast on this. The longer, the better. The longer, the better. I like the sword of Damocles dangling over their head, and I think the uncertainty for a program like Michigan, it kills them in recruiting, it kills them in fundraising, it kills them with NIL. The uncertainty is not good for them, and so the longer this thing can stretch out, the better. Selfishly for business, it's really good the longer this stretches out. But like this thing will have to end at some point in time. And no, Justin, to answer your question, um if anything, I think our position from the people that I talk to, and they're different people than you talk to, I'm more certain than ever that it's going to be bad for Michigan. I don't. It's like in any trial, you're never sure what the outcome's going to be, even though But you can read the context clues. You can read the stuff. You can look at precedent. You can look at what evidence has been presented, and I'm not sure there's been a better documented case in the history of the NCAA than this one. This is probably the best documented case in the history of the NCAA. And if for Michigan, being a repeat offender, being an uncooperative, not only uncooperative but actually actively destroying evidence and working against the investigation in this. Um, I just don't see how they have any kind of a positive now. If they have a positive, if at the end of this, the NCAA says, you know what, you're right, we overstepped our bounds. You guys got us on this, and they send them a fruit basket, an apology. Then you know what, we were wrong. On behalf of Buckeye Scoop, I'll say we were. If they get an apology and a fruit basket, we were wrong, but I don't think they're going to get the apology in the fruit basket. They're going to get the hammer, and I think they get the hammer sideways when they get it, whether that be on August 6th, December 6th, or whatever 6th. It's going to be bad, and I feel really good about that. But we'll have more insight after the hearing, because I think you can get stuff from the hearing. You can kind of get the vibes, the body language, and we may actually even have people that may have some insight on that. So looking forward to hearing from them as well.
Nevada,
Yeah,
what?
I mean, if there's
Go, Justin.
if there's a fruit basket involved, if that's how this ends, there's no other way to explain it than a mass conspiracy of people duping everyone on the Zoom call. I mean, because that would fly in the face of everything that I've heard and you've heard. So, of course, that's not going to happen. So it's kind of funny. The idea that this is going to be nothing, even if it's the best version that could possibly happen, it ain't nothing. And it's going to be essentially a rubber stamped official stain on what they've done. And that's the absolute best version of this outcome, because they've already admitted to the underlying stuff. It's all about NCAA's jurisdiction, what their purview is, overreach, as you guys have alluded to. I reported this back in January, that this was the nature of Michigan's response. Pete Thamel, 11 days after me, by the way, reported the same thing. That's what they're doing here. They're going with you don't have the right to punish me. It's not a claim of innocence or a promise of vindication or coming exoneration. I mean, if anything, it's the most embarrassing, passionate defense I've ever seen. Like, I don't even know what their fans are clinging to, because they're saying things even the school is not saying. If you're a Michigan fan that's hate watching this, or just whatever, someone sends a clip to you, my advice to you, just as a member of the human race, a fellow member, although you guys are really threatening that classification, you're cutting it real close there with some of the stuff the last couple months. My advice to you is to at least get your little business card, your little 3x5, and at least say the BS that the school is saying, because you're saying stuff that even they don't say. You're saying stuff that Michigan was saying in November 2 years ago of 2023. You're so far behind even the delusional cult. I mean, you're like 4 iterations. You're like 4 Jim Joneses ago. So at least if you're going to make an ass of yourself, get with the contemporaneous ass makery that your school is selling. Your school isn't claiming innocence or exoneration. They're claiming you don't have the right to nail us to this extent. And, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, but where's your smoking gun? That's essentially their defense. So any notion that it's a nothing burger, even the school's not saying that. So at least get your facts straight. And, I don't think there's going to be any fruit basket. That's for sure.
I always go back to, and Nevada, we wanted to talk to this with you, Justin. We were going to break down some tape of the night that Connor Stalions was on the sideline, on for Central Michigan, the Chippewas, because I always want to make sure I don't say Western Michigan. This is, because people are like, all the sign stealing, all this, whatever. I'm like, they have a staff member who's making $50,000 a year, who drove to East Lansing and got credentialed to be on the sideline for a game so that he could steal Michigan State signals and have his little spy glasses on and try to figure out who the active signaler was. And I'm like, do you know how insane that is? Like, do you know how insane, like again, I was in his shoes. I was a low-level staffer at Ohio State, graduate assistant. If I would have gone to Tom Herman, the offensive coordinator, and said, hey, I'm going to drive up to Akron tonight and watch, they play Michigan State in Akron, and they're going to let me on the sideline, and I'm going to, get their signals. Like, it's like I've said a million times to Nevada, if you're making, even if you're an intern, but if you make any sort of money, you don't get Friday nights off in major college football. Like you're with the team, you go to the team meal, you go to the hotel, you got to, like what I was the offensive line grad assistant. Me and Ed Warner would grade the tests together. And then we'd go like that night, we would go through the tests together with the O-line. So 9 o'clock at night after we had a team meal, team hangs out for a little bit, watches whatever Friday night game is, then we'd bring the O-line together and we'd go into a meeting room and we'd run through, the test and we'd grade it. And, we'd collect all the tests at dinner. Ed and I would grade it. Then we'd hand it back, go through what we need to fix, whatever. So like I couldn't just like take off and go to Akron or go, an hour away or whatever, Lansing to Ann Arbor is, because Michigan had a home game at noon the next day. So he's like, well, I'm going to go up to this game because Central Michigan, I know Jim McElwain, and I've got my little buddy who got fired on the sideline. They're going to let me on here. But talk a little bit about breaking this, because people say, oh, there's no one that can punch. I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is one of the biggest violations I've ever seen. The fact that they let this guy on the sideline. Jim McElwain retired, and he's like 60. I said Nevada. He's like 62 years old, and he left, $2.5 million on the table to retire because they went to him and said, hey, we're going to fire you for cause, or you can retire. Either way, you're not getting your money, but we'll give you the opportunity to save face and you can retire. Because 62-year-old, like being a 62-year-old coach is like being like a 20-year-old bartender. Like you got a long shelf life to go. 62 is like a baby in coaching, the coaching, especially when you're making $1.2 million, $1.3 million, or whatever it is. Like guys don't walk from that. They might want to get fired so they can get paid out, but he walked from that and retired as a 62-year-old. So again, he got caught up in the whirlwind, in the vortex. And again, this is my favorite clip ever, because again, I'm going to break this down and then I'm going to get your comment on this. As you're the guy that broke this, but here's Connor, who's an idiot. And he's, this kid is running full steam at the sideline. Again, a lot of you guys have played football. A lot of you guys have coached football. You guys maybe ran the chains. You've been on the sideline. When you see a guy sprinting at the sideline as fast as possible, and all of a sudden he's jumping over the thing, like you see Connor's right here. He knows he's not supposed to be there. He pulls his hat down over his sunglasses, at night. Look at this. Like every other person on that sideline is looking at the guy who's going to jump over the bench and try not to blow his knee out or do anything crazy. He jumps because he's running full steam. And if you guys haven't been to East Lansing, it's a very short sideline. Like there's not a lot of runway. If you go running out of bounds, like you're going to hit this wall if you're at speed. And he jumps over the bench so he doesn't, get jammed up in this. You've seen guys get hurt running into a bench before on a short sideline. But like Connor's over here looking down. He knows he's on TV. Look at everybody else. Everybody else is looking at the guy that just ran on the sideline. Everyone else. And Connor's looking down at the ground, pulling his hat down. Look at him. Pulled his hat down. I'm like, look at this. Who does that? And people are like, oh, they're not going to get the hammer. I'm like, they had an active staffer that makes $50,000 a year on the sideline of an opponent. Their rival, as you know, obviously. You're a Sparty. But this is just like when people are like, oh, they're not going to get the hammer, they're not going to push. I'm like, this is literally insane. And again, Harbaugh was in on this. Sharon Moore was in on this. Like you don't just get like a free hall pass to leave your responsibilities. I mean, football and inside of a football building is very regimented. It's not like the military. Like when you have a certain pecking order and you've got people you report to, like you have a job to do every day in the football building, and you got to do it. You can't just go on the lam. Football's a different world. I tell people this. I'm like, when you're a football coach, there's no sick days, there's no PTO, there's no I got the flu today, I'm not going to come to the office. Like you're in there, and when people expect you to be there, you better be there. Now again, you got to get permission if you're making $50,000 a year to go take off on the team and go stay there. But talk a little bit about breaking this, because this is something that you broke. It's incredible. And this is something where, it cost Jim McElwain his job. It helped the coach that helped get him there. Again, they tried to sweep this under the rug, which I'm glad you didn't. He got fired immediately. Talk a little bit about this, because this is insanity
Justin,
to me.
let me ask. I want to ask a little question in there to give a little bit more flavor to what Kirk's saying, because the great summary. I want to know. You don't have obviously not going to ask you to name names, your sources, but like just kind of walk us through, because this is one of the great scoops of all time. This is a story you broke, biggest sport in the last 10 years, maybe whatever, in college football. You broke this. How does this come to you? Was it an email? Was it a text? Was it a phone call? Do they like just walk us through that? Not use it. I don't want you to give away anything, but I just want to know kind of how it went down.
Sure. I mean, it started with a text message, and it was literally just, and I think no, you know what? It's not the one that I sent was to somebody else. Yeah, I'm thinking of the one in my edit was the one I sent right after, but I worded it basically the same. I received a text saying Stalions was on the sideline for the MSU game, the CMU game. I mean, for versus MSU, and it's from a Michigan State person, and I thought I was missing like a punchline. I didn't know what are you talking about? Like was like because there at that point you got to remember there was no sense of someone dressing up in disguise stallions or otherwise and penetrating the sideline of anywhere. Like it wasn't. It's so absurd. Like it's. I'm glad that you guys have actually circled back to it because it's not because of anything of my reporting it. It's just the most insane thing I've ever heard, and they would crush us or you if you guys or we did this to them. So it's one of the most absurd things. You can talk about grander violations in terms of like the moral code of the human universe, but it's the most absurd, brazen thing ever. I mean, really, bagmen are kind of like meeting someone in a parking lot back in the day. I mean, you might be on Nevin Shapiro's yacht down in Miami or whatever. I don't know if there's a single example in the history of the NCAA anyway of anything this blatant. I mean, really, you could go to Bobby Valentine for Major League Baseball, coming back, getting ejected, and coming back with a disguise. That's the only thing even close. But at least then he was returning to his own dugout. Like it was only against the rules because he had gotten thrown out. He wasn't like cheating the game. So it's ridiculous. So yeah, I got a text about it from Michigan State side. They had been alerted that there were some concerns that this may have been going on, not just there, but even potentially elsewhere. And that begs another question. There's talking about was he at Western? Was he at this place or that place? Gun to my head, I think he was at least at one other school because I have like four interesting maybes. I just can't report them because I don't know, and you know how I am. I'm pretty strict on myself. If I had to guess, I don't even think it was the only time he did it. But I think someone with enough time, if they went back and watched every second of their games for 3 years, I think would find him somewhere. That's my opinion. I can't prove that yet. But anyway, so I called and asked, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I thought they were messing with me, and that's essentially what they told me is that there was an indication that he may be there, and Michigan State ended up may have been there. Michigan State ended up pulling video tape to check basically. So they were tipped off that he may have been there, and then they pulled their own security tapes at Spartan Stadium, and which they have them. This is in evidence, and the NCAA is aware. They've seen them for sure. They're passing his CMU gear, the CMU assistants, like the actual one, it's not the fake one, through a gate for him to put on, and like his credentials, it's on tape. So it's eventually I think that tape will be seen. I don't know what the argument would be for sealing it from a judge. It would theoretically be subjected to FOIA. I don't know why it would be exempted. So I think we're going to see that tape eventually. But I promise it exists because that's why I reported it. I knew for a fact it existed. And so that was basically it. Michigan State was shocked by this. I mean, they were, I would say, as confused as they were. Maybe more so. It was not like oh my God, how dare they? They were like, what is this guy doing? This is the craziest. Like, no one could believe it. I reported it and I kind of didn't blame people that didn't believe me because I knew it was true and I wasn't sure I believed it. So, I was quite famously mocked for that report. That's the only one that I don't totally blame them on because I get it. And really, I got to give the critics a little bit of leeway. Who could believe it? I mean, it's insane. It is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. And the brazenness of it's nuts. I don't know if you guys have seen the clip. I think you have. I posted it again recently, a week or two ago. There's a clip, which I don't know if I broke it. I'm the one that found it. No one else mentioned it or noticed it. Central Michigan is on defense. Michigan State, I think it was like midfield or driving, whatever. It's like a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2. Incomplete pass on 3rd down, whatever, to set up 4th down. You can see, I posted the clip. It's Stalions going, like he's watching the sideline, then goes to the assistant and tells him something kind of clandestine, and then they stuffed the play. They broke the play. I mean, maybe they stop it anyway, but that's another example. And it's the same thing with like with the Ohio State, the infamous pointing thing. It's like, Ohio State scored or got a first down or whatever on that play. No one has ever claimed that Stalions was worth 100% success rate. It's about getting an edge on maybe 1 or 2 plays. I mean, you could argue it's more, but even the people that say it's a minimal advantage, 1 play in the course of however many plays in the game on both sides of the ball can completely change how many fortunes, including their own at your expense in 2016. How many times have things hinged on 1 play? And even if it doesn't mean you have to lose by 1 score. There's a whole cascading, and you guys experienced that in 2022. That wasn't really a blowout. You had a lead in the second half. So, it's nonsense to downplay this at all. But again, that's another example of he's on tape, and that's another coaching staff, by the way, other than Michigan's, which saw enough value not just to have him standing next to the coordinators, piping in advice to their ear like he was in Michigan for 3 years. There's a whole other team that was willing to cheat and jeopardize their careers, and it cost at least 2 of them their careers just to get them over there. Like, you might not say it matters. Your school thought it mattered. Another school thought it mattered. From what I hear, it might even be a 3rd school or a 4th school, potentially. I just can't report it because I don't know. But I'm hearing that might be a thing. So, it's ridiculous to downplay it. It's absurd. And, even like the things like Nevada, you're better source in the NCAA than I am. I have one that's reliable, but not in high enough where I feel like they nail everything. But they give me really good vibes of where things are going. I was told that they were very upset about the whole Sign Stealer documentary, really in general. But the fact that if you guys remember the scene where Stalions holds up the picture of himself and it's like kind of winking at the camera and like, oh yeah, who knows? That pissed them off. Something fierce. Like and that's part of the problem. Michigan's brazenness it's not doing themselves any favors.
No,
I mean, good.
let me just answer on the NCAA standpoint. Yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff completely ticks them off, and it's because that's been the attitude about for Michigan from the whole thing. I mean that's been their attitude publicly. That's been their attitude privately. They've been trying to blow this thing off from the very beginning. They thought Stallions thought that this was some grand joke that he could pull off on them, and when you do that, there's a price to pay. You can do that, and you can be flippant, and you can wave your hands around and do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a price to pay. And I think slash know that when this whole thing's said and done, that strategy is going to have backfired on Michigan grandly. And Stallions. I'll add one other thing that's completely ticked the NCAA off is that the fact that Michigan has not been willing to completely disassociate themselves from Stallions, and the fact that they still are embracing him, that they're still that Yoko Ono was posting stuff, and who's this guy here at the thing. Like that stuff did not go over well with the NCAA, and I think ultimately they're when Michigan starts crying overreach and they wonder why the penalties are so draconian and why it's so bad for them. Look, the facts are bad, but they've got a situation where they've inflamed the situation. They've taken this thing up to a 10 when it didn't have to be that way. They could have killed this with cooperation, with the exemplary, getting along with the NCAA, removing the evildoers, begging forgiveness, take your uh, postseason ban last year when you knew you were going to suck anyway. They could have gotten ahead of a lot of this. but they chose the other path. They chose the path of defiance. And look, that's all well and good until the bill comes due, and the bill's coming due now, and they're going to pay a heavy price for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
go ahead,
the
Justin.
point of the day. I mean, yeah, Kirk, yeah, I feel like I'm
No, you're
bogarting the
good.
mic on you.
No, we want you to do that because this is amazing. So please continue.
I mean, you can go for 6 hours and not cover 10% of it. The problem, that's the point of the week, point of the month, anyway. I mean, that was fantastic. It's a great point by you, and this whole notion that they just have a hard on for Harbaugh, they're out to get him. I agree, you're right, but why did they pick Harbaugh like out of a hat? Did he win the lottery? Like the short story version, not the good one. Why are they after him? There's a number of reasons. For one, he was poking their bear for years, even before any of this. And then he lied to them and then lied to them again, and then was obstructing the first entire investigation of Scandal 1. So I agree they're out to get him, but it doesn't mean they're planting evidence. They're just looking a lot harder, and it's not anybody's fault but your coach. Guess what? When you do the boo-boo and stick your tongue out at the principal or your teacher or whatever, you're more likely to get busted for the same thing that the guy next to you who lays low and is playing it cool. It's just, you're going to get more punishment. You're more likely to get busted. This is not like that crazy of a concept. And the only way I would even care about that anyway is if you were making an argument with proof, which of course they don't have for anything ever, that there were some type of frame job here, that they weren't actually guilty of the underlying violation. So the problem with that claim is not even the school is making it. We've already hit on that. So short of saying that they're making this whole thing up, which really ironically is the Michigan trademark as far as it relates to this scandal anyway, how's Ryan Day's brother doing? Any more death threats that he's received by a conscious, deliberate smear campaign that they just threw out there to their insiders, mainly Chris Ballas, who sold that lie? When is he going to be apologizing to the Day family? Is he at all bothered that Ross Dellinger and other sources as well have come out and publicly reported the same thing that I've heard, and I believe you guys have heard, that Ryan Day's brother, not Ryan Day, not even Ryan Day's member of his immediate family and his household, his brother who lives in a different house, has nothing to do with football at all, other than going and shaking his brother's hand and saying good job after a win every now and then. Where is the apology for implicating him? And Chris Ballas, and I said, did not make that up. That came from Michigan. So Michigan, and this is all, like, I don't think that specific thing is going to be a component of the NCAA, but this entire attitude of deflect and blame and we're going to sue. I pull my receipts. It can be verbal or written because there's plenty of both. And if you want me to save you the time, I'll give you the shortcut. I'll send you the link or the screenshot or the clip or whatever. I said repeatedly, if I was a paid advisor for Michigan, where I'm giving them the best advice I can, and I have to, I would have told them to play along and shut the hell up 2.5 years ago. I'm going back to Scandal 1, like 2.5, 3 years ago. They've been playing this wrong the whole time. So to whatever extent there is, an elevated enthusiasm from the governing body that's relevant here, it's not by accident. It's not unfair. It's very, very fair and quite justified. And it would be the case if anybody else did the same thing. Like, if anything, Michigan has a little bit more protection, as would Ohio State, to a much lesser extent Michigan State in terms of brand. Like, they have an advantage, but they squandered that consciously. Everything is just nonsensical. As far as you mentioned, another great point, and I know I'm rambling, but Connor Stalions being embraced, why is he not banned from their campus? Why is he even allowed to attend games? Let me ask you why. Forget the cheating. We are to believe that this man committed felony fraud, victimizing the star running back of the football team, the senior star who that season, the season where all this happened, this felony occurred, set the school's touchdown record, a program that's been around since like Abe Lincoln was shot. In that same season, This staffer committed a felony, not broke a school rule, not committed a misdemeanor, committed a felony, which, by the way, it's a felony every single day. You're operating under the false pretense. It's a felony like every day. It was a year plus long felony, victimizing the star running back, because that's what has to have happened by definition if Corum was not knowingly in business with Connor Stalions. It has to be one or the other. So if your argument, as Michigan has taken the position, although they didn't specifically officially comment on it, which is almost worse, but their position backing Corum is a felony occurred, he's the victim. Okay, why is this guy allowed on campus? The University of Michigan, Santa Ono, got a lot of heat for this. I don't care what you think about the political Palestine. It's irrelevant, whether you like it or not. They banned people from campus for protesting. Personally, I thought they were overstaying their welcome, and I think they were really pushing their First Amendment rights a little bit. But they didn't do anything. They didn't commit any felonies. I mean, not even Michigan is accusing them of committing felonies. It was more of like disrupting the peace, and you're just obnoxious, and at some point we have to shut you up and get you out of here. But no one's even alleging that they committed a felony against anybody. So why are those kids banned for excessive nonviolent protesting? And this guy who not just committed a felony against a student, committed a felony against the star senior running back who was in the midst of setting the touchdown record. This guy should be a pariah. In any other case where there was a genuine, I think we can all agree, felonies like a felony defrauding of someone perpetuated over a long span of time. This is not like a bar fight or something, or you got drunk, you got a DUI, or like, whatever. This is something, an ongoing felony for over a year. Would anybody argue that that was not somewhat problematic, and that any other school in any other situation, should this have actually happened, would have immediately banned the guy from campus and had his picture on the wall all over the place like he was Bin Laden? That's not what happened. He's embraced. He's tailgating. He's hugging Portnoy. He's hugging players after they beat you guys. I beat in quotation marks because I don't count anything from that era, at the Big House in 2023. Oh, yeah, Connor, it's in the Sign Stealer documentary. I can't remember the player, but he spots him in the crowd, and they're, oh, yeah, good to see you, bro. What is he doing there? Because he had to have committed a felony or an eligibility obliterating violation with no third option. It has to be one or the other. I don't care which one it is, but pick one.
Yeah, I've been saying that, and the fact that we had our issues in 2010 where we had a season vacated, and like Nevada, I think Terrell Pryor has been back on campus one time when the Cleveland Browns had an open practice in Ohio Stadium in the last 15 years. I mean, that's like pariah status right there, man. He went from being the face of the franchise to I literally think that's the only time he's been back. I mean, he's not welcome anywhere. They don't have him anywhere. But Connor Stalions is just kind of like business as usual because they think this is going to skate and they think that the legal process is slow. I want to go because you did talk about the video. I want to toss this up real quick, and then I'll bring it right back to you. Because again, like people that don't want down to the granular aspect of what this guy was doing, sign stealing wise, 10 TV, and again, credit to 10 TV for this video. This is great. They have this great video. So this is CJ Stroud's, last game in the Horseshoe. And obviously you've got Denard over here who, again, he was in on everything because he shared an office with Connor Stalions. Again, when you're in a football building and you're working 12 to 14 hours a day and you share an office with somebody, you generally know what they're doing during the day and what you're doing. Like if they're breaking down Iowa's pass defense and you're breaking down the run fits or whatever, like there's a lot of talking when you're in the same office. Again, I've lived that. So again, you watch this and they get this great zoom in. So you've got, you've got Minter or McDonald or whoever it is, the coordinator, and you see we do this look back, which we would always do. We get up here and you see CJ's trying to see Dewan stand up and turn to look to the sideline to get the play. You see Connor's right here. There's our boy. There's Connor. And he looks over as soon as the look back starts. So these guys are looking back at the signalers that are on the sideline. Here's Connor and Denard looking. And then you see him. This is great. He's getting the signal. He's leaning into the ear of the defensive coordinator. he's telling him what the play is. Like, this is crazy. Like, he's looking at, he's picking it. And then, as soon as he gets it and announces it, the closest guy to Connor, this isn't some sort of hieroglyphics, that the closest guy to Connor immediately is the first guy to put his arm up there and say that it's a pass. Pass. So then they all do it. Then Connor does it. So again, he's standing right here, because that's the thing I keep saying to everybody, is that the players are in on it too. When you're this late in the season and you see Connor running around next to the defensive coordinator, and these guys are all defensive players that are next to the defensive coordinator in case they have to substitute into the game, all of a sudden they figure out, hey man, this guy's picking all their signals. So, again, the way that you help your brothers on the field is you yell out, pass, run. It's like something Russell Wilson got made fun of when he was walking around on the sideline and said, hey guys, make sure you help out our defense. They'll pass and run and scream it to help them out, whatever, give them some awareness. But it's just so funny because you see him lean in to the coordinator. And like, I've never seen anything like this ever. I mean, he literally walks over and finds him. I mean, he could give him a kiss. Like, look how close he is. He's looking right at Keenan Bailey, who's signaling, and he's leaned into him, and they're getting ready to change the defense. And again, I don't care if they scored. If I'm playing poker and you tell me what everyone's hand is and one guy has 4 aces, I'm still not going to win. So if we have Marvin Harrison, that doesn't guarantee they're going to cover him, but it gives you a really damn good chance to change your coverage to make sure that it works. So again, he's looking. Again, the process is amazing. He tells it. They call the defense off of what he seals, and then you see the entire sideline point to the sky because they all know what's going on. He's yelling pass because he picked it. So it's something where I've never seen a guy that he's coming back over right next to the coordinator again. I've never seen that in the history of football. I was that guy. I was down on the sideline. Like, Luke Fickell would have killed me if I tried to talk to him while he was trying to call a play, especially in the Ohio State Michigan game, unless I was stealing the signs, through this advanced scouting, which again, that's the thing that's insane to me, is people don't realize how bad this is and how obvious it is. Because again, he's right there and he's got the whole sideline. So the whole team is in on this. This isn't like it's the lone wolf, the Connor Stalions, like, I mean, Denard's in on it. Denard's trying to get a promotion. He's a low level guy and he's not with the program anymore. But like, talk a little bit about that, because it's so obvious, and people that act like, well, that's fine. And the thing that I kept arguing is, I'm like, look, I was Connor Signs. I picked signs in games. I did it legally. I never had any advanced scouting. I never had anything, but I picked signs and I was good at it. But if all of a sudden the whole organization was depending upon me becoming as accurate as possible, like, and if I was insane, like Connor Signs is, I could see, okay, well, I got to get stringers at 7 Ohio State. I got to make sure I have to have a stringer at every single Ohio State game, because that is the game. And that is, my parents took me there when I was an infant, and I have to make sure I've got that one. And I got to know if Keenan Bailey's a live signaler, if they're going to switch it, or they're going to put up a different t-shirt, or who else could be a live signaler? Who else do they trust? And because again, the stuff he did was comprehensive. And again, I give him credit for that, because again, he is crazy, and he thinks that he's the reason why they'd win the game. And honestly, he is, because when they started stealing our stuff, magically they went from being atrocious to beating the spread at a rate that Las Vegas had never seen. So, but talk a little bit about that, because again, that's the thing, is like the lone wolf, whatever. I'm like, this is a program-wide thing sanctioned by Jim Harbaugh. Like, Jim Harbaugh gave an intern a game ball. Like, if I was a captain on that team and I was an All-American, like I was my senior at Ohio State, and we gave an intern a game ball, I'd be like, so you're not going to give it to the running back or the offensive tackle or the quarterback? Like, he has to do something outstanding. I mean, that's a big award. Like, say, the player of the week is Connor Stalions this week. I'd be like, okay, like, what did this guy do? So the team has to be on that to sanction something like that. But Justin, I just love your response to that. And again, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, you would know more than me. You can correct me if I'm wrong about this point, but I'm of the understanding from talking to other players that there's multiple game balls usually given per game, right? He probably wasn't the only recipient of the game ball in the Purdue game or whatever it was. Is that accurate? Just to be fair.
Yeah. It was the Iowa game, and I'm sure that they probably had like an offensive, a defensive, and there's some games where you might say, hey, everybody on the team gets a game ball, because we were so great and the scout team was great, or whatever. Like, there's always, we
Okay.
used to have little plaques and stuff. I mean, we never had game footballs. We'd get like a offensive player of the week, you get a little plaque, whatever. So
Yeah,
there's
okay. So, and I'm
different
sure
levels of it.
programs do it differently, but the general practice, and that's what I've always been told, just so because there are people out there that think that was the one game ball, like you're not being deceptive. People just don't know because you and I know that. So I just wanted to clarify to be fair to them. Now let's get to the, where I crushed them. There's a couple different things we're arguing about here with them, and are really that they're arguing against the wall. I don't really engage in that level anymore. I just roll my eyes and make fun of them. So they're making the argument that, okay, sign stealing is legal. And so what he's doing there in that clip you shared and the central clip that I shared, you pretend that he shouldn't have been on the sideline in that case. It's just part of what the Kirk Barton thing was doing. And that's totally legal. Okay, there's a couple problems with that argument. For one, and you said it already, where are the other examples of a staffer at that level being positioned right there? And you have made the argument, this is where they argue it over here, which they don't understand that they're hurting their own case over here with this argument over there. They're arguing that this is a negligible advantage. It doesn't really matter. And that this is a low-level staffer that went rogue. Why on earth would someone that did not have the pull and be viewed as an appreciated, valued member of the staff even be allowed to stand there? I talked to multiple members of the Michigan State football team and 2 staff members, and I couldn't find any of them that thought it was even anything short of completely ridiculous to suggest that would happen anywhere, to where a low-level staffer would not forget like being posted up there, would even last 10 seconds without getting an elbow in the throat or like fired. Like you might get one warning. The staffer said, the coach I talked to said, like, if a kid did that, we would be like, what's wrong with you? And if he did it again, he'd never be seen again. Like you just wouldn't be allowed to stand there. So it betrays the notion that he's this rogue agent. And there's a whole lot of other reasons we know that's not the case. The LLC with Blake Corum, for example. Again, why aren't they prosecuting that? Why is he not banned from campus? So let's presume that maybe Blake Corum knew about it. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Some things that, I might know but can't report. Why is he in that relationship with the star running back if he's just like low-level guy? Why is he sending Venmos and giving quotes before the scandal broke to Jay Harbaugh and talking glowingly about how Jay Harbaugh is one of his best friends, not on the team, in the world? This is the head coach's son who we have documentation of Venmo payments going back and forth. It doesn't mean that he was paying him to go do anything nefarious. That's not even what I'm alleging because I don't have proof of that. It could be to reimburse them for the Qdoba they just had. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is, you're not engaging in financial commerce and posing with pictures and giving interviews before you knew any of this was going to happen, saying that this is one of my best friends. We know Connor's a little odd. Does anyone think that he's going to give a quote saying that he's best friends or one of his best friends with some guy that doesn't even like him? I just come on. I mean, he's not that crazy. So there's so much of this circumstantial evidence, and what you're showing lends to it too, where you cannot argue that it's some guy who went rogue and it was sort of like under the radar. And by the way, even if he was, who cares? Going back to the central thing, there's this common line. I guarantee you guys have seen it, and anybody watching this has seen it. If you're hate watching, you've probably made this ridiculous argument that makes no sense. You say in regards to the Central Michigan incident that he was there on behalf of CMU. I broke this story. I can confirm that's true, but it doesn't matter. And Kirk has made the argument. I honestly don't know. I don't have any evidence that somebody sent him there or had to excuse him for any reason. I'll take your word for it that that's normal protocol. I don't know. I didn't play. But none of this even matters. The fact is, he is on your payroll. He is a member of your staff. You are responsible for his violations. This has been the case for every coach ever. ever. Every coach, every assistant, the dietitian could break rules. If the dietitian on the team who just got hired and nobody even knows yet is slipping PEDs in the sub sandwiches she puts out before games, they're going to get popped for cheating. It doesn't matter. So this whole argument of like he's there on CMU's behalf, I can't say it doesn't matter at all, because it would certainly be more juicy if someone had an audio recording of Jim Harbaugh saying, hey, get in there. So I can't say it doesn't matter at all, but it doesn't really matter that much, and it's not exoneration. No one has ever even attempted that argument before an NCAA body because it would be absurd. Again, you're making arguments that even your crazy, delusional school isn't making. Like, if you're to the left of the craziness of what they're saying, the school, look out. I mean, of course, I don't know why we're taking anything they say on this specific story seriously. These are the same people that said the guy on the sideline did not even resemble Connor Stalions and called me a liar and said, not only was I wrong, I was absurd for even thinking it bared a slight resemblance. So when you get into a position or a situation where this massive sum of people is telling you, which I in fact classify as gaslighting, telling you that somebody does not even resemble the person that they are, is that not this whole thing in a nutshell? Water's not wet. The guy, Connor Stalions, doesn't even look like Connor Stalions. I mean, what are we talking about here? But you get into these absurd arguments. The guy has financial transactions with the head coach's son. He's got multiple pictures hugging JJ McCarthy and stuff. You could argue he could ask those. Sure seems like they were all buds. He's in business, on paper anyway, with the star running back. He's in interviews, or at least one, saying that he is really good friends with Jay Harbaugh. It's one of his best friends. Look, any one of these in a vacuum, I can't say you could excuse, but you could maybe come up with an explanation. There can't be a perfectly innocent explanation for 11 ridiculous smoking guns, okay? There has to be some legitimate fire there. It's too big of a lift to ask people to buy this. So, it talks about like the whole, it doesn't matter that much advantage, whatever. That's a separate argument. The bottom line is it matters enough that it was funded. It matters enough that he was getting game balls. It matters enough that he went through all this effort. And even by your account, not yours, but theirs, even by their account, he went through all this personal expenditure, which he can't afford. You guys thought it mattered. And even if it doesn't matter, which it does, mattering is not a part of the NCAA bylaw. There's nothing in there that says, okay, well, if you do something that matters, it's like, no, you can't do XYZ behavior. The implications, I think, will be mentioned in sort of the commentary on their decision, the impact on games, sort of the general threat to the integrity of the sport. I'm not saying it won't be mentioned, but it's not in itself the violation. So it doesn't even really matter. I could have the most elaborate scheme that sucked or even made me worse. It was like a negative effect. I can still be punished for it because the reward or the detriment is not a measure in the bylaw. So all of that is more kind of water cooler fun talk. First of all, I think it's absurd even in that context to argue it doesn't matter. I can't find anybody that disagrees with me on the staff at Michigan State, multiple people, even on Michigan's team, player-wise, that said from a different era, the kind of more my era, they're like, oh, of course it matters. So, I think they're kind of all over the place and they can't keep their own arguments straight. The bottom line is there's substantial, first of all, I'm telling you guys, he was entrenched and had really good relationships with multiple star players, the head coach's son. I mean, I'm just telling you, I'm reporting that's a fact. But even if you didn't have me here to tell you, like, make your own conclusions because the evidence is there. You don't have to take my word for it. It's just out there. And, would this guy be a low-level staffer? Like, it's absurd standing next to the coaches. I'll finish here, at least on this point. Kirk, I'm working on a different video right now. It's a JJ McCarthy edit that's just silly. It's not journalistic at all. I just think he's kind of a joke of a prospect. We'll see. TBD. I found today footage from 2021 where we knew Stalions was there, but he was supposedly didn't really ramp up till 2022. Iowa's opening drive. Anyone can go find it. I just saw this like an hour before I joined you guys. I just found I'd never seen this before. I don't think anyone's posted it, not that I'm aware of. Iowa's opening drive in the Big Ten championship game after the 2021 regular season. They go down the field 50, 60 yards, something like that. Third down and 4 or 5. They get stuffed. Okay. Play is snuffed out. Even the announcer, I don't know if it was Gus, is like, oh, they snuffed out that one or they smelled that one out, whatever. They go and they attempt a 33, 34-yard field goal. They miss it, which, sorry, but you guys know a thing or two about missing 33-yard field goals in big games against Michigan. The first guy you see is Connor Stalions pumping his fist like on the field. Like he's on the field. He was that's normally the head coach or like the coordinator or the quarterback or whatever. It's Connor Stalions. Go look. There's no question it's him. And this is in 2021. So this guy, even in 2021, when honestly, even I thought that he was kind of more just warming up back then. And I think there's a degree of truth to that. Even in 2021, in the Big Ten championship game, it's a tie game, opening drive, is the first guy you see pumping his fist, and he's got his foot on the field. I mean, it's absurd to make this argument that he's not critical to what they were doing and that everybody knew who he was and that he was important.
Nevada, your thoughts?
Well, Justin, weren't there obviously 2020, we can talk about 2021 and him getting, just ramped up, but weren't there like public posts, I believe, between Uncle T and him congratulating Connor
Yeah.
on their successful project or something like that after the
Well,
Michigan game?
you see, this is yes, but I'm gonna pause on thumbs upping on the way you phrased it because I'm not sure. But yes, there was some interaction, and there's also posts that, again, I haven't independently verified that it's Uncle T, but yeah, and I haven't. There's no way for me to do that without a subpoena, of the IP record and all that. But someone appearing to be Uncle T did have posts essentially bragging about, how they had done something that helped. I mean, I want to pull like the actual wording just because that's like a heavy allegation. But yes, those posts existed and they appear to have been from Uncle T. Those are because this is a guy, he's threatened to sue, me through other parties. He's threatened to sue a lot of people. And I mean, I'm not like bring it on, but that's why, because I'm really careful. But yes, that does exist. What's apparently him. And again, it's just another piece of circumstantial evidence. Like, why did they expel him against his will, Tim Smith, from the champion circle? Why would they expel him? Keep in mind, this is right before the Penn State game. It's the week before the Penn State game where there's this buzz. Is Tony Batiti going to suspend Jim Harbaugh? By the way, that would have been his second suspension in less than 2 months, if you count the end of the first one. So this is all like kind of bubbling to the surface Monday, Tuesday, getting higher, more tense. Michigan is threatening war. It's going to be lawsuits. They're telling their blogger, fanboy guys, that they are going to leave the Big Ten if Tony Batiti goes forward. They are going to leave the Big Ten. What happens? Thursday, Michigan is given not every piece of evidence that the NCAA had, but a significant portion of it from the Big Ten, but via the NCAA. So the NCAA gives this evidence to the Big Ten. The Big Ten gives the evidence to Michigan the Thursday before. At the time, there were 2 lawsuits filed, one by Jim Harbaugh, a second by the university itself. 2 separate lawsuits, 2 separate claimants, okay? 2 different disputes, and this is what they had promised was coming. The state legislature here in Michigan drafted a letter, which was absurd, saying, he's basically demanding due process, and this is wrong. The shitstorm that, I don't know if I can swear on this thing, that these guys started that week was nuts. What happens that Thursday when they get the evidence and Michigan sees it? Michigan immediately drops their lawsuit. They call Jim, they call his agent and lawyer, Tom Mars, says, you got to drop this. They drop it. Now, Tom Mars since came out and said, oh, they didn't give us much choice. Bullshit, Tom. You are the attorney. It's your client. You can do whatever you want. Michigan can't force a withdrawal or a filing of a lawsuit from, you're a private person in this matter. Right? So it's like it's your own lawsuit. It's absurd. And even if that were the case, the scoreboard, you withdrew it. So they withdraw both lawsuits. They immediately accept the suspension of Jim Harbaugh. Say, oh, sounds good. 3 games. This is the same entity that said if they suspend them for 1/2 of one game, they were going to leave the conference. They see the evidence and they immediately withdraw both lawsuits, one of which is coming from Harbaugh. Are you guys knowing Harbaugh to be a person that would falsely confess to stuff? Or is he more like a guy that even if he did something would deny it up and down? This is the last person that would be like, you know what? No problem here. I'm withdrawing the suit. Now, to be clear, not even the Big Ten is alleging that they had proof that he knew or anything like that. But the point is, it's from an oversight perspective, and he is responsible. And Harbaugh saw and was aware of this evidence too. So 2 lawsuits withdrawn, an accepted suspension for basically the max that was really on the table, the rest of the regular season, 3 games. And their 2 most important games, Penn State and you guys. And what's the 4th thing that they do? All of this within 12 hours. They forcibly expelled Tim Smith from the champion circle. They send him a text message. Now, he gets a call Thursday night from his attorney. Remember, Michigan was made aware of this. They got the evidence. They saw everything on Thursday. They pulled their lawsuits Thursday. That night, Tim Smith, by his own account, gets a call from his attorney saying, are you this Uncle T guy? What's all this about? And of course, Tim Smith denies it, whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but I know what happened and what I know it's factual. He got kicked off the champion. He was not just a card-carrying member. He was a sitting member of their board. He's one of the guys running the thing. He's a 30-year donor and alumnus of the school, really successful Ross School of Business grad. He's entrenched in their kind of cobble up there. He's an important guy up there. Wealthy, longtime supporter, and in a position of influence. Why would they, after seeing the evidence, withdraw 2 lawsuits, accept the suspension that they said if it was 1/10 of what it ended up being, they were going to leave the conference? Why would they expel Tim Smith? Why would they do that unless there was something in there that was convincing and they believed it was true? And if it is true, what does that mean? It means the school was paying for the scheme, because this is a board member, a sitting active board member in good standing, and a member of their cabal of the official NIL collective and partner of the school. That's their terminology. It's a partner. The liability is pretty clear here. The NCAA and most entities would not make any distinction between, an agent of a university or the university itself, just like you wouldn't with a company. So it's essentially the same thing as in terms of the compliance view, and it would be the same way in like a civil court situation, like a tort. If there was like a slip and fall, for example. If I'm running a nursing home and I subcontract out a janitorial company and they do a crappy job mopping up the floor and they leave it wet and someone slips, guess what? I'm going to be named in the lawsuit and I'm going to have to pay something. I'm going to lose if I don't settle. It's not going to be just the janitorial company. It's not the perfect example, but it's the same sort of concept. So again, you can ask yourself, you don't have to take my word for it. We know that happened. So if it did, then we get into this kind of 2 options thing. They either railroaded an innocent man who was a prominent member up there. He was not like a convenient scapegoat. It's not some guy we don't care about. He was entrenched in there. One of their alums. They either railroaded him or it's true. And if it's true, this is worse than what Nevin Shapiro did and what wiped Miami out, because Nevin Shapiro was a booster. He wasn't a sitting member of anything. I don't even think he went to the school. So it's really like the Harbaugh thing. He tweeted that famous, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave," or whatever. It's like, this is the ultimate example of that. I mean, it goes so deep, and there's so many things that they've done that the NCAA is pretty sure they did, but they don't have the evidence, but they're going to have it because they know exactly where to look if this ends up contested in court, because then you can depose people. And that's why I posted today, and it was largely a defense of you guys. People saying, oh, the Buckeye Scoop guys. It's like, I don't know. I vetted a story with you guys all day. We took getting to the truth pretty seriously in my experience. I mean, it's the only thing we've kind of worked on together, in tandem. But the one time I've worked with you on trying to get a story right, we just cared about getting it right. I mean, we weren't talking about, hey, how can we sell this in an interesting way? Our conversation was like, is it true or not? What can we do to find out? So, but I did post. It's like, look, you can say whatever you want, or you can be as optimistic as you want as a Michigan fan. I do not know where it's going to land, but I look at all the available evidence, and I know what you guys do too. The NCAA is mad, and it's not going to go well. The NCAA was happy with Baylor, vacated win. Happy with, in terms of their compliance, happy with Tennessee's cooperation and post-scandal compliance. They got wins wiped out for a season, or two seasons with Pruitt. I can't remember. So, last thing, the timeline. You said when we were first going back and forth that, I disagree with Justin on the timeline. There's nothing to disagree with. I don't know is my answer, but I'm just saying here's what the general timeline has been for the last couple of scandals. And as far as the overall timeline, the notion that this is dragging on is interesting. It's an interesting point to make. Aren't these the people that were demanding due process? Now they're complaining that the due process is taking too long and they want a faster, expedited investigation. I don't know how that really works. And second, I mentioned earlier, the Baylor investigation, for example, was initiated in December of 2016. It was not adjudicated in its final rendering until August of 2021, just under 5 years. This hasn't even been 2 yet. We haven't hit the 2 year. We're not even halfway there by the Baylor example. And that was a cooperating entity that got hammered, relatively speaking. So it's like this, you guys got to drop like the bitching about the timeline stuff. This is totally normal. If anything, faster than normal.
Nevada, your thoughts?
I mean, look, so many great points. The impact on the game. You showed a clip before, Kirk, that the famous. I can't remember what the play was, but it was a obvious passing down situation for Ohio State against Michigan, and they have Marvin Harris. I think we're 4 wide or something, and the the ball gets snapped, and both Michigan safeties immediately sprint to the right to fill the right sideline. I mean, literally, like, they are not reading anything. There's no keys that they're reading. They are sprinting at the snap to where the ball is being run, and they snuff out a run play in an obvious passing situation, force a field goal. So, you know, you guys, you didn't play, Justin, but you watch enough football, and Kirk, you play. Every game there's 120 plays or whatever it is. It comes down to 5 or 6 plays that generally decide the course of the game in one way, shape, or form. Whether, yeah, sure, this is one of my favorites because it's like, I mean, these guys just trigger. They just trigger. I think
It's
we're running. We're running to the right.
Yeah, it's 2nd and 9. Here's Marvin. So you got him wound up. You got 2 high safeties, which again, 2 high safeties normally you're playing pass on 2nd and 9. I mean, as soon as the ball snapped, these guys, it's like a double safety blitz. I mean, there's no reading. So you're telling me you're going to leave the guy that won the Blitnikoff. You're going to let him one-on-one up here with all this space. I mean, he could run any route and just run right across here and catch a touchdown. But no, instead, these guys, these 2 high safeties, again, he's not buzzed down pre-snap. As soon as the ball snapped, they're both sprinting at the line. I mean, this is insane versus this, not because it's not just Marvin. I mean, I don't know if that's Julian. I think this is Fleming. I think this is maybe Julian Fleming. This is a mecca. So you have 2 first-round receivers right here, and it's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna leave all those guys on an island and just perfectly guess. Our 2 high safeties are both going to trigger as soon as the ball snapped. I mean, they don't check for play action. They don't do anything. They're just in the hole, ready to go. And so, like, when people say, well, what's the advantage to sealing a sign? It's that. And again, James Franklin, and it's one of the great clips that I always talk about, where James Franklin is at a post-game press conference and he talks about how, it's 4th and 1 and we go heavy personnel, 3 tight ends, 13, whatever. And, everything in the world would say that we're going to run the ball, try to get a yard. And we actually called a shot play, which, is a deep shot. There's a play action fake. And they played 2 high safeties versus 3 tight ends, which no coach in the history of defense would call, because you got to match hats. You got to get your guys down in the box and get ready to try to stop that. But instead, Michigan had 2 high safeties versus a goal line offensive formation, basically. And James Franklin is like, I don't know what in the scouting report or what we've ever done that would ever suggest that we would throw it deep out of that formation, but somehow they just happen to have the perfect call: 2 high safeties versus a shot play. So again, these coaches aren't stupid. And again, I've talked to Ryan Day about this, and he's, again, he's hot, and he should be. It cost him a lot and got a lot of pain and suffering because of these guys cheating. And it's something that, it's heinous, and these guys are going to get smashed for it. Real quick, I just want to make this point, because this is a great point about Uncle T, and I'm not going to go to the Uncle T thing because, again, I know he's huffing and puffing, but, the bar to run a guy out of a collective at this juncture in college football, where you cannot possibly raise enough money to fund these NIL funds and these beasts, and kids want so much money. Like, most of the people that sit on the boards of these collectives are very substantial donors. They give a lot of money to the collectives, and there's some figures, like Urban Meyer's on ours, and Terry McLaurin and Evan Turner, and I'm sure most of those guys haven't given anything, but they look nice on the board of trustees for like the foundation. But all of the other guys that most of you've never heard of, guys like Bill Lewis, I mean, those guys give money every year to fund it. And you see a lot of these random dudes that are on these boards of these foundations, they're all wealthy. They all have money. They're all kicking in, and they're all helping fundraise and grow those things. So to kick off a guy who is donating a sizable amount every year to your NIL fund, that's almost impossible to do, because, again, NIL isn't the sexiest thing in the world to give your money to. We talk about that all the time. So, I mean, it had to be bad, and they ran him, and it was public. And when you run a big donor, I mean, he's probably going to be hesitant to give to the university that kind of maybe turns his back on him, and he's not going to give to the NIL fund. Which, again, in this day and age, man, it's like you can't have enough firewood for that fire. So when a guy brings a ton of firewood, you get rid of it. It's tough. So it had to be something rough. Nevada, any other thoughts? And we'll turn this back to Justin. And we got a couple super chats I'd like to get through.
Well, yeah. Well, just for the record, the Uncle T, Mr. T, Real Talkman, whomever, I don't even know who that is. I mean, I
don't either.
I can't. I mean, I can't follow who all these pieces are in terms of, but I can follow the stuff about the posting where I think it was the Real Talkman or whatever was talking about. Whoever the Real Talkman is was talking about him and Connor Stalions project really bore fruit or so. I mean, it's just weird. There's enough weirdness there that it's okay to say that something's weird. And I I I'm waiting for the final, when the final volumes are published on this thing, when the NCAA issues their final ruling, and we get to go through everything. Now that's going to be a document worth reading for sure, because that's going to have tons and tons and tons of good stuff in there.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, just thinking real quick, I actually forgot, and then I'll let you get your chats. This won't be long. I forgot the fifth thing that they did on that Thursday in the Friday when they were aware of the evidence. They fired Chris Partridge. I don't know how I forgot that. That was a fifth piece, because that was part of the evidence presented too, is that he had been actively interfering with the investigation. I was actually the one that broke the story of him deleting stuff off their server. No one has even picked that up. I don't even know if you guys have heard that. I'm the only one to report that, which was after this, but it was worse than even what they thought he did. They meaning the Yahoo guys. So it's another piece of this where, okay, these other 4 things are true. What are the odds that the 5th one isn't? So that's food for thought. They were presented evidence on Partridge and fired him. You be the judge there.
Yeah, exactly. When you fire a guy on a Friday afternoon before a game, that's something untenable has been presented to you, because you don't.
A beloved staffer, by the way, that's Harbaugh's guy, and he was in every hype video. He was the one hyping him up on the sideline all the time. He was an important guy to them.
Yeah, That's Connor's it's Connor's buddy, man. That was the guy that would have been in. I mean, Connor would have been in those linebacker because again, if Connor wasn't on the sideline for any of these games for that Central Michigan game, it's like, well, you should be in the linebacker room because you helped out with the linebackers all week. You'd be in there for doing the test because that's what most groups do at night on a Friday night. The night for the game is you go through the test because especially for a noon game, which they had the next day, you're going through the test the night before so that you hand the graded test back to the kids. They go to bed. They get up at 6 a.m., get ready to go for the game at noon, but that's just the semantics of it. All right, we got some super chats. Big John, thanks for the 5. He says, when all of the team up north stuff is done, the media will want statements from people who are affected. Who gives a statement for the Buckeyes? Nevada OH.
I
don't know. I mean, I don't know if we'll get a statement. Nevada, do you think we'll get a statement from the Buckeyes on this?
No, because Ohio State wants to say as little about this as possible. Ryan Day wants to say as little because there's just no way you can't say anything without it coming across as like sour grapes or whining or complaining or whatever it is. So Ohio State's really going to be hard pressed to make comments on this thing publicly. Now, privately, we know how they feel about this. We don't have to guess. We know exactly how they feel about this. They feel the same way that we do, and Justin feels. And hey, Michigan cheated. I mean, they just cheated, and they cheated in a brazen, shameless way that there is no precedent for. Um, so when the Michigan fans say, "Oh yeah, well nobody's ever been sanctioned for this," well, yeah, nobody's ever done this. I think you said Bobby Valentine dressing up like Yuppie or whatever he did, the mascot, or sneaking in
He just
disguise with
put on, well, he got ejected. He
the
just put on those like fake nose thing, but that's his own. He's penetrating his own dugout. It's like you don't get.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I guess the Astros thing is the only thing that's kind of similar to
yeah.
this, and they they I mean, I frankly feel like they got off light. I don't know what baseball could have done about that, should have done about that. I don't even know exactly what the sanctions were, but yeah, this is bad. The NCAA is fighting for its very existence, and they're going to make a statement on this one.
I love Ryan Day real quick. Another reason why I love him. He's doing exactly what you're supposed to do. I haven't heard a word from him in 2 years on this. He's not touching it. They're conjuring up his involvement in this whole thing, which by the way, even if he was, who cares what he blew the whistle? But he's playing it so cool despite all of the negative impacts on him, his family. There's multiple, whether it's a coach or university officials in the athletic department, multiple coaches and administrative staff on record about this, even if it's sort of tepidly. It's ironic that the least vocal of any in the Big Ten is Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, easily the biggest victim in this by far, and of course the biggest rival. So just another mark for him. What a guy! I mean, just because the restraint that would have to show, and it's just smart. It's very wise of him to not say a word.
Well, yeah, and to me, he has scoreboard because he's the reigning national championship coach. So it's like it kind of just washes it all away. It's like, hey, we got the big ring, and we xed out your 24 title with your 23 title with our 24 title. So, Studley Budley, thanks for the deuce. He says 86 scum. I agree. I think that they need to get sent back to the Stone Age, and I think they're going to get a bowl ban, and they're going to get smashed pretty hard on this. Nick Ma, thanks for the 5. From what I see on X, Spiro is right. They love Stalions up north. Yeah, I think that it's a sad state of affairs because they feel like that they got over, but I just don't understand how anything that they're doing with their actions is going to be funny when all of this comes down. Justin, what are your thoughts on that? Again, he says, Nick, again, I appreciate your man next to the 5 says what he sees on X, Spiro's right. They love Stallions up north. Is that really like kind of strange to you? Because we've had the closest thing I can say to him is like with Terrell. Like Terrell is a very polarizing guy, Terrell Pryor. But he hasn't been back at Ohio State. But there's people that really like him. There's people that hate him. It's kind of all over the map. But with Stallions, like I don't see a lot of the nastiness directed towards him at all. What are your thoughts on that, Justin?
Within the Michigan base, not at all. I mean, it's the complete opposite. I mean, he's treated better than almost any actual former great player. I mean, I honestly think Connor Stalions would have a bigger buzz like walking into a random tailgate than Charles Woodson. Like I mean that. I think more people would know who he was, which is shocking. But guy won the Heisman Trophy. I think Connor Stalions would have more buzz than Charles Woodson. At the very least, it'd be darn close. And it's like that's the thing. It's like this guy, if he did what he just the quorum thing alone, he should be banned. He shouldn't be allowed on campus if we're to believe it. Of course, I don't believe it. So it's like that's kind of the point. But yeah, there's no question. There's a couple people that have a problem with him and think in the Michigan base. In my conversations, the only ones I'm familiar with are like the actual Michigan people, not the fans, but members of the administration. Like they have the Block M on their paychecks. Okay? A couple of them are not so amused, and I famously played a voice modded version in one of my edits from one of them where they're saying like, oh, they're leaving me this voicemail, which they're just dejected and distraught. And if, I later found out why. More of the evidence that was coming out on Stalions that you guys don't even know yet, and the public doesn't know. But he said in that voicemail, the source did, I think we're going to regret making this guy a hero, was how that effectively ended. So there's a couple of people that know better and really are not down with what they're doing anyway. We've talked about it before. I know some of these people that are actual Michigan people that actually try to live up to what they claim. So respect to them, but they are the outliers. The vast majority, no problem with Stalions. And I got to say, I don't like to generalize. I can't think of one sort of Michigan fan on social media that was like, this is wrong, guys. I don't like what he did. Maybe it's happened. I interact with a lot of these people. I don't think I've seen it once. So it's not only is it not any sort of objection to what took place, they think it's funny, and it really ties into sort of the entitlement. They think it's funny that like, oh, like we did whatever we wanted, and look at you get mad about it, and he's trolling them, and it pisses them off, pisses off the Buckeyes, pisses off Sparty. So it's so funny, haha. It's all baked into their entitlement that they can do this, and you can't complain. And if you do, we're going to make fun of you, and nothing's going to happen. And that's why there's never been a better case for if you were ever going to overpunish to set an example, this would be the case. And to put on top of it, you don't even need to overpunish because the case on its own merit warrants it. I can't find a better example, including SMU, of a more widespread brazen disregard to not only did they have no regard for enforcement, not only did they have no regard for practicing any concept of unwritten integrity. After they got busted, they denied, they threatened, they deflected, they implicated the siblings of coaches. You're talking about an innocent Ryan Day who has a brother who is innocent. Like, even if Ryan Day had been involved in something nefarious, such as reporting cheating that he was a victim of, I know the horror, even if that had happened, it's a little better than what actually happened as far as Michigan treated it. At least then you could be like, oh, he's a rat or whatever. They went after the sibling of an innocent coach. We're like 2 degrees down the innocence ladder here. That's like where this thing has gone. And that just goes to show there's no accountability there. So they deserve the absolute harshest punishment, even if they really hadn't acted this way. But they have acted this way. So all the more reason to hammer them.
Yeah, I agree with that. 4.0 creator, thanks for being an ultra member. Thanks for being a 5 or for the 5. He says NCAA recognized national titles since 1950 when Woody was hired. 8 Ohio State, Michigan State, 6 Scum, 2 if you count 2023. That is a great point, and I appreciate that. Jamie Coburn, thank you for the 5. He says you should get Connor Stalions to come on your show. That would be epic. He has a standing invite. He'll never take it, but he can find me on Twitter. We're easy to find. And I know he's reached out to Zach Smith about going on his show. I'd love to have him on our show. Standing invite, Connor. I'd love to see you. We'll build another box for you. Don't put you on the show. And I'm sure that Spiro and I could have some really, in Nevada, could have a lot of fun with that.
Connor tentatively agreed to do my show, actually. And it was while they were negotiating. I didn't know about this at the time I was talking to him. It turns out it was while they were negotiating the Netflix deal, which he, of course, got paid for, and not a huge sum of money, but 6 figures a couple times over is the buzz. And so he and this is the one thing I don't blame him for. He withdrew because that was part of the deal. Is he's like telling his story for the first time there, and then
Yeah.
I did reach out to him after, and he stopped responding. But there was a point where he basically agreed to do it. It was just he's like, sounds good. Let's wait a little bit or whatever. Something. He tentatively agreed to do it. So it is a standing invite. I would be nice to him. He's actually ironically like one of the least sort of evil players in this thing. Like to me, the institution is much worse than
Yes.
him. Like he's a fascinating, goofy guy. Like I wouldn't say
Oh,
I'm like defending him necessarily, but like I'm not. I don't sit there and I'm like, oh, that counter Stalions. I say, oh, that disgusting institution that is perpetuating this stuff. Stalions is more like a way downstream symptom, and he's actually kind of amusing in some ways. So I would be nice to him. I'd have no problem sitting with him.
yeah. I mean, he's just weird. I mean, a guy that writes a manifesto and has like a 700,000 page, Google Doc of every recruit in the history of mankind and where they're from. And I mean, again, that's great. Obviously, he's like, it's like I said, he's like Norman Bates at the end of Psycho when he's convinced that he's his mother. That's like Connor Science level loony. He is straight out of the loony bin.
That's what it makes me
ML,
want to interview him more, though. Like you're making the
oh,
best case to have him on.
I know. I mean, like it's like interviewing like Norman
Weirder the
Bates at the end
better.
of Psycho. I know.
I'm
You
not a
think your
moralist on
mother?
my show. I
Yes.
mean, I would have Bin Laden on 9/12. It's not an
Huh.
endorsement of the acts. It's just like it'd be an interesting conversation. It's like yeah, but he's got a standing invite, but I don't think he's going to do it now because I think he's aware of some of the stuff I've uncovered, and I think he's worried that I'm going to report what I can't report because it gets worse for them, but I can't because it's off the record. But I've
Yeah.
told you guys some of the stuff offline, but.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. Mel Hernandez likes for the 5. Any predictions on how much it will cost Scum in damages from any pending litigation? I would think many would pile on it once the evidence is public. Justin, what are your thoughts on that?
All right, is that in reference to like, for example, Ohio State suing them for something? Is that what he or she means by
Yeah, I
that?
think it's kind of like an umbrella of, what do you think the damages are? Because again, even with the Weiss stuff and the hacking and the stuff that he did, like, I mean, that's insanely expensive, especially if you don't tell the victims right away.
It's extremely unlikely because you'd have to prove damages. How many teams could really prove that you actually are one of them? What would the money be worth? Ohio State, even if it were a big amount, it would be a negligible amount. And look, it's not to cast aspersions on Ohio State. This would be the case for any institution. You got to remember when you sue, they can depose you. I'm sure you guys have done something you don't want out. It doesn't have to even be an NCAA violation. It could be an embarrassing text message or something. Like all that stuff becomes open. Now some of it can be sealed and stuff, but like you're really kicking a hornet's nest that could sting you. Again, not that you cheated, but like there's just the whole book is open. There's not a person on earth that's not gonna have something unflattering. So it's like, you know, what's it worth to the school? Like it'd be hard to prove, like at the level needed. You'd have to prove that it caused you to lose. How do you prove that? Like, so it's really unlikely. I don't think Ohio State or any entity would really care. They have so much money anyway. I guess at most it would be a symbolic thing. But if they're found culpable of it, that's all the symbolism you need. It's better than symbolic. It's an actual tangible punishment. So you never say never, but there's no precedent for anything like that. How many scandals have we had, even though this one's pretty bad? I don't think there's ever been a school to bring that type of litigation forward. So never say never. I don't think it's good for anybody to do that, though. Like, it's like the fewer depositions, the better as a general rule.
Nevada, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll say that I look at that question and it's kind of like three components. Will there be damages to other schools? No. Will there be a fine that's assigned as part of the NCAA punishment? Yes, and I think it'll be substantial. I think it'll be a substantial multi-million, $15 million or some sort of substantial financial penalty. And then when we get to the Weiss thing, I think the Weiss thing's $1 billion. I think the Weiss thing is a $1 billion settlement for all the plaintiffs and all the all the affected parties on that one. But that's kind of a different that's a story for another day. But the new president for Michigan is certainly stepping into what's the old adage? Should you live in interesting times? Well, these are definitely interesting times for Michigan.
I just add him to the list. Like, if you pile up the amount of figures there in leadership and official with responsibilities and oversight of other people that have been fired, forced to resign, suspended, left, but not under great terms in Santaono's case. What are we at? Like, if you're counting Harbaugh's multiple suspensions, Sharon's will soon be multiple. If you're counting those as multiple, which you should, they're separate incidents. What are we at? Like 27? I mean, like Scruggs DUI, Denard DUI, Partridge tampering with the investigation, Stalions, we already know what he did. Sharon Moore ×2, Harbaugh ×4, pretty soon already 3. I'm already up to like 13, and I'm just ripping them off. You have Alex Ude busted for allegedly trying to meet a 13-year-old. Add that one to the list. How many of these? Jesse Minter, Matt Weiss, the FBI raiding the home. If I can rattle off and get up to 15 without even thinking and knowing I'm omitting half the list, and all of this happened in like a 2-year span, what are we doing here? Like, I mean, you could take a third of what has happened, forget Buckeye Scoop reports or what Justin Spiro says or thinks. Forget all that. Just take the number on the page of combining suspensions, arrests, firings, forced resignations, Shemi Schembechler, add that one to the list, add all of that, and then take 70%, take 80% off. The remaining number is still so absurd, I don't know how your lights are on. Like, the scale of this is absurd. Was like 6 miles back that way. We are way past that. I don't even know how to characterize it. Like, if it were, okay, in a 2-year span, give or take a month, in a 2-year span, what if I told you any program, doesn't matter, take ourselves out of it, pick Tulane, I don't care, fill in the blank. In a 2-year span, School Y had 9 coaches or staff members arrested or suspended or fired. Like, and not for performance reasons, like fired for cause because they were doing something improper. 9 in a 2-year span. What would you think about that? Now, what would you think if it were like 30? And I'm not exaggerating. It's like pushing 30. Again, double counting or triple counting or quadruple counting in Harbaugh's case pretty soon. Like, if you count those as you should as separate incidents, because they were, what would you say to this if it were a third of the number that this is? So that's what it gets into, like, oh, only Buckeyes care. You guys are the ones firing these guys or forcing them to resign. I'm not the one who raided Matt Weiss's house. I reported it. It was the FBI. I had nothing to do with that. Kirk Barton didn't kick the guy's door down. I didn't pull over Denard Robinson. I don't know. Maybe Nevada did. I don't think he was the arresting officer in that DUI or the Scruggs DUI. Like, it's just, I'm not a moralist. Like, I don't care. Like, stuff happens. But when it's 30 or 28 or whatever in 2 years, don't tell me that it's a nothing burger, because how many people are in on this scandal, this conspiracy to frame Michigan as being anything other than sparkling and as pure as the driven snow? The FBI's in on it. Buckeyes are in on it. Michigan State's in on it. The state government's in on it. The Ypsilanti police are in on it. Everyone in Ann Arbor on that police force, they're in on it. How many arrests have there been just in that city limits alone? Like, they are conspirators against themselves, if we are to believe this, because it's their own people arresting them, their own campus police in some of these cases. Like, is it that you guys really are that bad on an objective level, just numbers on the page compared to every other school? Could it be that you're really that bad, or are you really going with the case of a wide conspiracy to frame 20 members of this staff in 34 separate incidents? What are we doing here? If this were my school's entire history rap sheet, and we have our own problems, don't get me wrong, but if this was my entire school's rap sheet, not my football programs, not my whole schools in a 2-year stretch, my entire athletic department in East Lansing, if we had that many I'm not talking about players, because kids are dumb, they do stuff. I'm talking about staffers and leaders and the head coach. If I had that many guys arrested on my staff, like in handcuffs, or FBI kicking down their door in the entire 110-year history of the athletic department combined, I would be horrified. I would disavow my degree. I'd be like, what am I doing? I want nothing to do with this place. This is hell on earth. They did it in one program in a 2-year span. It's absurd. And they can talk about only Buckeyes, all that nonsense. Get the numbers on the page. Find any other school that I could double their amount of these types of incidents combined in a 2, 3, 4-year span. Find the school that's even half Michigan. It doesn't exist. So you can say, oh, whining or nothing burger. There's too many entities in on this. There's too many different arresting officers in different counties, including federal officers kicking doors down. It's the dirtiest institution from an athletic standpoint anyway, ever by objective measure. I mean, unless there's a lot of wrongful arrests. I don't know. When are those exonerations coming? Although I don't know why we should take them seriously. They didn't think it even looked like Connor Stalions and nothing burger, and Harbaugh won't be suspended, and Harbaugh is going to be extended. And don't worry, he really is going to be extended this time. And he only wants immunity because, just in case the NCAA gets a little bit frisky again, it has nothing to do with the fact that he started suddenly out of nowhere demanding immunity in an active extension negotiation after the evidence was presented that he then withdrew his lawsuit based on. I'm sure the timing of that is just a coincidence and not a, oh my God, they've got the goods on me. I better get this. I'm signing this piece of paper. Like, you people are nuts. Like, get help. Please, I want to help you. I'm here to help you because I've been right about everything I've said. I am batting 1,000, not because I'm clairvoyant, because I say only things that I know. And what I know is I have never seen or even heard or even conceived of a program or an institution with even a third of this rap sheet. And I would be horrified if it were mine to a tiny degree of what yours is historically in a 2-year span. Not only are you not horrified, you're not even neutral. You have no problem with it at all. You've made heroes of multiple of the scandal's biggest players. Connor Stalions and Jim Harbaugh. They're heroes. They would get a hero's welcome any Michigan bar they walked into, any tailgate. They're going to be carried around on a chair like an Ewok with C-3PO. So I don't know what we're talking about here, where you guys have an objective number that's unprecedented by 10x, and you don't even seem to care. It's like it's funny or something. It's not bias. Look at the rap sheet; it speaks for itself.
Nevada, your thoughts on that?
All I can say is at least we don't have people from the Chinese Communist Party like bringing in bioweapons into our school.
Oh my God.
That would be the only. That would be the only thing that could make it worse.
I can't keep up with them. I mean, how about the fact that their hockey coach was busted by their own investigation for harassing people, intimidating them, for falsifying COVID test results? And Ward Manuel was within an hour or two of losing his job because he not only didn't want to fire him, he wanted to give him a raise and extend him. I can't even get into the other programs, guys. We don't even know what happened with their volleyball coach years later. I could find it if I really tug, but their volleyball coach was terminated a few years back under really bizarre circumstances that got covered up. Like, what are we doing here?
Juwan Howard and Sanderson fighting in the training room.
Oh yeah, I like that you skipped the first 5 incidents, but yeah, okay, you jumped right to the next. I mean, that's the point. It's like, what are we talking about here? I mean, they're responsible for Malcolm Jones, a 19-year-old innocent Michigan student athlete, in the post-2022 fracas in Ann Arbor. I'm not going to get into the name of which of the 2 Michigan players. One of the 2 Michigan, and they were both doing similar things. One of the 2 Michigan players followed them into the tunnel, was skipping and bumping into guys, called them, I can't swear, right? B-A-N words to their face, yelling, hooting, and hollering. They started knocking around a guy that crashed into him and called them B's and A's and N words. Now, it was a a black on black guy. To be clear, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a white guy saying it, but still, and they railroaded this poor kid who was defamed and harassed by their fan base for weeks because Harbaugh's pounding the table, demanding due process with Ward Manuel. It was the only time they hung out in 5 years. They're demanding due process together, for themselves when it's their cheating scandal, but they have no interest in due process whatsoever when it's the Michigan State guy. And by the way, Michigan is demanding due process for their 60-year-old head coach, which should be at a little bit higher of a standard than a 19-year-old college student athlete, maybe. But they railroaded the kid. Even they said he was innocent eventually, but not after. His name wasn't dragged in the mud. He was suspended 3 games. 3 games. He did nothing. This is a prosecutor's office that prosecuted guys in a couple of the cases for pushing someone that had crashed into them, which is like, if you don't do that, I got some other questions about your manhood. It's almost like an instinct. Now, a couple went too far, but there were multiple prosecuted because the prosecutor is a U of M fanboy, Eli Sabat, who's taunting Michigan State on Twitter over the years. His receipts all came out. He's a huge fanboy. And Harbaugh's pounding the table saying, I can't imagine there's not going to be criminal charges. Where was their due process? And that firestorm is why you have this rush to judgment that allowed a 19-year-old innocent kid to get the hook. So they are willing to hang a kid metaphorically for not doing anything, but they don't want any accountability for themselves for actually doing stuff. So it's a wicked institution and it needs an enema. They got to flush it out.
Nevada, this might be our biggest show we've ever done at this point. But any thoughts on that? And we can start to wrap this thing up because I don't want to kill Justin. I want to come back, but this has been incredible.
Well, yeah. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the great Justin Spiro because
Oh my
I
God.
knew this show was going to be fun. I knew it. I told Kirk, I'm like, I'm so excited about tonight because Justin's on the show. These shows write themselves. There's no, you guys got to understand out there in podcast land, there's no prior preparation done. There's no like pre-show. Which the pre-show consisted of Justin signing on 4 seconds before we went live on this thing. These shows write themselves because the Michigan scandal is just so delicious. But I just want to thank Justin for making this time and for all the great research that he's done. And I can only hope that some of the other stuff that you know but can't prove just yet comes to light because that is equally juicy. And I hope that that we hear more, we see more, and I hope that you come back and be a guest on the show again in the future because you are indeed a national treasure.
Oh, I appreciate it. You guys are gracious hosts, and I always laugh. Like I'll go on a 20-minute rant, and I always feel bad. Kirk's like, man, any thoughts on that? How can you respond? I mean,
I love it.
At what point I feel bad, but it's not a criticism of you, Kirk. It's a criticism of I can't shut up. But it's like,
I love
it's
it.
putting you guys in a terrible spot. Hey, respond to which part of that Magna Carta? Like, so it's, you guys are gracious to let me go, and I appreciate the time and the runway.
We love it. I want you to plug X. Where do they need to find you? Darko State News. Where are you at?
Darko
Give your
State News,
addresses.
Yeah. I'm going to go see, I work in a lot of like silly stuff with my actual like journalistic work, that's what I'm working on. That's where I bumped into the thing on Stalions from the 2021 Big Ten Championship. But I'm working on a fun little edit that I'll be dropped probably tomorrow. But I'm going to send you guys a little advanced copy of that. It's just a goofy edit, but yeah. So check that out. If you think JJ McCarthy was a handoff merchant, which he was, you might get a kick out of it. But Darko State News, and again, thank you guys for having me as always.
Your last edit was one of the great videos we've added to Buckeye Scoop in terms. That might have been the most commented video we've ever gotten because everybody went crazy watching it. The bye, and it was that was spectacular. Nevada, any final thoughts as we wrap up our anniversary, our 5th birthday for Buckeye Scoop? Any final thoughts before I wrap this thing up?
Well, I couldn't have asked for a better present than having Justin on the show.
Seriously.
This epic show here on Wednesday of Hammer Week. We're going to make this an annual event here where we do a Hammer Week. Nothing but Michigan shows the entire week. Tomorrow night, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but it's going to be about Michigan. It's going to be juicy. I'm not sure it'll be quite as epic because Justin won't be here, but his the echoes of Justin being here will be felt long after he leaves the airwaves.
All right, Justin, any final thoughts?
Yeah, you guys are the best. Happy birthday to you. I'm gonna go blow out a cupcake candle for you. But cheers to you guys. 5 years, man. That's not nothing. I mean, that's a lot of things fold faster than that. And you guys not only are still breathing, but you're thriving. And I've got your guys back like I did today. I can vouch from my experience with you. You guys actually want to do a good job here, and part of that is telling the truth. And certainly, you want to be interesting. I think we all want to be interesting in our delivery of it. But I can vouch for your intensity of just wanting to get to the truth by our own experience, and I think that's reflected in your success and your 5-year birthday. And I think on a long enough timeline, people can usually sniff out the nonsense and the crap. You can't get away with it for too long, and it's a testament to you guys that you're thriving the way you are and for so long. So hats off to you guys.
I appreciate you. Got one last super chat at the buzzer. Devin, what is up, my dude? Yeah, no, we brought this up. It's funny. He said, don't forget the scum scientists and the terrorist chemicals. I know. It's like, just when you think it can't get worse, they commit a domestic terror attack potentially, where it's like there's smuggling in bioweapons. I mean, Justin, you couldn't write this script, man. That's insane.
I mean, the Stalions on the sideline thing, the guy getting his door kicked down, the coordinator. I mean, what are we doing here? It's by like both stories that I broke, what Matt Weiss did and the Stalions on the sideline thing. It's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just attracted, I'm magnetized to the weirdness. I just somehow I'm the one that ends up with those stories. But yeah, whatever. I mean, they are a unique brand. It's funny. It's like in closing, I would just say, yes, I want justice to be done here. Yes, I'm going to have a lot of fun with it when it does. But I'm also a little bit overwhelmed. There's like 1% of me that hopes they get completely exonerated, which isn't even on the table because even they're not saying that. But 1% of me, because I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. It's going to be I don't have enough hours in the day. My receipt folder for people saying that nothing was going to happen. It's like overwhelming. I almost, like, for my own sanity, I know my wife is rooting for a total exoneration because she doesn't want me working on this stuff. But it's like, people have to pay, guys. I'm going big game hunting on that one. I don't need to go for like the 127 follower guys because there's just you never get it done. I'm going to be big game hunting those receipts because I mean the ballot said it's 18 minutes long. It's unreleased. This one and it's combined is going to be like 110 minutes in part one. So a part of me is kind of rooting for them, but just the smallest part. For my own sanity, and I think it would help my marriage. Although these Michigan fans, they actually started a rumor that I'm getting divorced. I mean, it's one of many false rumors that I'm broke and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing all right. and my wife and I are cool. I don't know. We were just in Traverse City, a nice little town out west in Michigan this past weekend. We had a great time. I don't know. So it was news to her that we were getting divorced. So yeah, that's the nature of these people. I guess I should be flattered that it's something I have in common with Ryan Day. We both had our innocent family members attacked based on nothing. So the ultimate compliment perhaps, but really does speak well of them that they're just making stuff up about people that report on them. Like that makes them look good for sure. It definitely doesn't make them look more guilty and more vile. I definitely feel like it's helping their case to falsely accuse Ryan Day's brother of being involved, or bring in my wife, for example, or show up at my house and leave a bizarre Zodiac letter written on a napkin. Have you guys seen this? They're writing weird notes like this and showing up at my house and leaving it on the porch.
That was Justin. That was me. That was me. I'm sorry.
I think you would have better penmanship, although I do suspect it was intentionally for, because that would be the mystery of all. To show you how rattled I was by this interaction, I was like, oh, all right. And I put it in a drawer and I forgot it even existed. I couldn't read any of the second half of it because there's 2 pages. And I gave it 3 seconds and I was like, I give up. I am not solving your cipher. That's how little and bothered I was by this. Then I find it in the drawer 2 months later. My wife's like, what's that? I'm like, oh, we got some ransom looking Zodiac letter, and weird stuff, which I still have. And she's like, why didn't you call the police? I'm like, these freaks aren't going to do anything. It's all bluster. I mean, I give them credit. I mean, showing up at the house, that's pretty insane. But what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? They're gonna shoot me, whatever. I mean, I'm so sick of them anyway. Put me out of my misery dealing with them. If I had to be in a room with one of these people that would do something like that, I would ask them to pull the trigger. So I just, what am I worried about? Anyway, thank you guys. Happy birthday.
Appreciate you guys. All right, let's wrap this thing up. What a monster, amazing show. Appreciate you guys as always. Wow. What a monster that was. Again, thank you for all of the great Buckeye Scoop birthday wishes. 5 years strong. We've never been better. Our shows are absolutely monstrous. The YouTube's crazy. For our birthday, if you want to give us something great, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Write happy birthday on the comments so that you did it today. And I will shout you guys out tomorrow. So do that. That'd be great. And I'll read those. Make sure you rhyme me tomorrow. But wow. What a run. Buckeye Scoop's never been better. It's never been stronger. And nobody can mess with it. And it's absolutely incredible the direction this thing's going. And I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of the Scoop family. Thank you to all you guys around here every night watching this. Again, this has been an incredible run. And the thing is just a monster. I mean, just a monster. And it keeps getting better. So it's so fun. But as always, if you guys enjoy our content, and you guys have for the last 5 years, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys for all that you guys do each and every night. We got one more super chat. Chief Brody, thank you, my dude. He says, happy birthday, go Irish. Thanks for the deuce, my friend. Appreciate you being on here. But again, this has been an incredible ride. It's been just so fun. And meeting you guys has been amazing. Growing this thing has been amazing. I mean, Nevada is as good of a partner as you could ever dream of having, along with David Penterick, Arnold Thurman, and some of the people that we work with. Funky Buckeye, Brandon Moses, all you guys that are on here each and every night. Sean Schrock, Sean Rogers, or Sean Rawlings, excuse me, Steely, Devin, all of our moderators. Obviously, Kimmy's a moderator. Beth and Karis, I appreciate our mods on here keeping this thing nice and clean up. It was a tough one tonight, but you guys had the sniper rifles ready to go, and you're sniping those folks that were being a little unruly, so I appreciate that. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. See you guys tomorrow. Happy birthday, Buckeye Scoop. We're only getting better, bigger, stronger, faster, and it's scary to go against us, so I appreciate you guys. Thank you. You guys have a great night. Go Bucks.